So we'll go live. Hold on one second. Saints, hold on one second. So we're live now. All right, good. There we go. So welcome everyone to our admissions meeting, but virtual style. Okay. So a little bit different. It's going to be virtual today. We would love to have you in the building, but this will do for now. So my name is Mr. Justin Tyler. I'm the Parent Relations Executive here at GEMS American Academy Qatar. I've been here for almost 4 years now. This is the place to be for me. If you see me anywhere else, it must be my twin. It's not me. All right. This is the place that I rep 100%. Okay. So I have a couple of people with me that are going to also help talk about this school. One from an admissions perspective and one from an everything perspective, right? Because he oversees everything in the school. All right. So let's really get started. I don't want to take too much time or too much shine away from the panelists here. So let's start with our fearless leader, Mr. Mark Lentz. If you can introduce everyone in YouTube land and Facebook.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Mr. Tyler said, my name is Mark Lentz. I'm the head of the GEMS American Academy here. Proud to be the leader of such an amazing school. I had a slightly circuitous route into education because my original degree is in psychology and then clinical social work. And I was a counselor with troubled teens for many years in different organizations in the United States. Before becoming a school counselor, really fallen in love with schools and that setting, and went back and got a master's in education and a teaching certification. Taught for many years in a variety of different locations in international schools all over the world. I'm currently working on a doctorate in educational leadership. And that's me. Happy to be here. I've been here 4.5 years and I love my school. And I will turn it over to the talented Miss Sima.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Sima. I'm the Director of Admissions here at GEMS American Academy. I have been with GEMS for almost 3 years now. And I love what I get to bring to the team. And I love working with parents to get their children the best possible seat in our school.
All right. There we have it. So this is the team that I work with on an everyday basis that I'm honored and proud to work with. This is, a vibe here. It's a family vibe, here. So, you'll see people stay for a long period of time because we're committed to what we're doing. So, yeah, I'm glad to have my friends on this live stream with me. So let's really go ahead and talk about what we're here to talk about, right? The admissions process, about our school. Let's talk really about that. So I think the best person is to let Ms. Sima talk again and discuss more about the admissions process, the assessments, age requirements from British to American, all that fun stuff that we get to talk about with families. So Sima, I'll pass off the mic to you for you to discuss with the audience today.
Yes, of course. So as an admissions director, it is my job to navigate all prospective parents through our admissions process. So I'm going to give you a brief overview now on that process. But obviously, if you want to apply to our school, I would reach out to you directly and we would, I'd give you a more comprehensive review. I want to talk about our main role as an admissions office or our main functions. The first thing is obviously process all interest in GEMS American Academy and guide families throughout the admission process. We also advocate for prospective students. So like my job is basically to liaison between the prospective parents and their children and the education team. So we take all the data and we bring it to our educational team. And our job is basically to advocate for you and to get you the best possible seat in our school. We also support parents in document collection and maintaining school records. So after the enrollment, you will receive communications with us on what you need to submit to make sure all your documents are up to date. Another thing we do is we assess retrieving school reports and high school transcripts to our counselor's office. so they can make sure that the school reports are compliant to whichever university your child will be applying to. So those are our main roles and functions here. But now let's talk about the actual process. It is a 4-step process. It is very simple. We'll talk about it step by step. The first step and the way to start would be submitting an online application. So what you need to do is go to our website, GEMS American Academy Qatar.com. You just have to go to admissions and then to apply online. The application takes about 5 to 10 minutes. It's a very simple data entry application. You just have to put in the parents' details, the student details, and that's it. We have an application from you. After that, it's going to ask you to pay for the assessment fee, which is 200 riyals. If you are unable to pay that on the website, you can pay that when you come to our school for the assessment. We'll take you to the cashier and have you pay for it. It is 200 riyals. The assessment fee for pre-K to KG2 is waived, so you're not required to pay that. Yeah, so basically that's it. Once you pay the fee online, it will take you to a document submission portal, which takes us to step 2, which is document collection or initial document collection. Now, when you get to that portal online, you're going to see a whole list of documents. Don't let that overwhelm you. We won't need all of these documents until either post-enrollment or throughout the enrollment process. But to start, the most important documents you will need are the QID of the student. If you're an overseas transfer and you can't get that for us, that's fine. We will require some sort of identification like a passport. But obviously, to actually start school, you will eventually be required to submit a QID. But to secure the seat, we can just do it with a passport. The other thing that we will need is the most recent school reports that you have. So if it was the end of the year, we will obviously request a final school report, which we prefer. But if it was mid-year or beginning of the year, we just need the most recent school reports that you have in your possession. The third thing that we're going to need is something called an enrollment disclosure form, which will be sent to you separately in an email. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out. It's a simple Google form, but we need that to make a final admissions decision. So you should fill that out as soon as you get an email from us. That's for step 2, which is the initial document collection. For step 3 would be the assessment. So after you submit the application, you should receive a call from us within 1 business day to schedule an assessment. And here we are dealing with age groups from 3 to 17 years old. So we have different processes for each grade, obviously, or each age group. So for pre-K to grade 2, it's going to be a live assessment done with a faculty member. So we have 2 faculty members. They're pre-K to grade 2 teachers who will sit down with your child. They will interact with him. They will interact with you. They'll ask you some questions, and that will help them make a final admissions decision. They will bring that admissions decision to me, and that decision will be based on that assessment, school reports, and the enrollment disclosure form that we mentioned before. So we basically look at the student holistically, he doesn't just get accepted based on the assessment that he did. As for grade 3 and up, we do something called a MAP screening test. A MAP test is a very popular assessment tool used in the US and in the American curriculum. It basically consists of 20 questions of reading, 20 questions of math, and then we have a written essay question. So that MAP test gives us back a score, and that score will determine your student's grade level. We will do that in conjunction with school reports. assessment disclosure form, and then we will be able to make a final decision. After the decision is made, we go to step 4, which is enrollment and securing the seat. We would then register your student, assuming that he's accepted. And it's pretty simple. We try to make it as easy as we can for parents. We are going to need 4 things, 3 signed documents that are going to be given to you by us, which are the offer letter for your child's grade, the homeschool agreement, and the medical form. So we will give that to you on the spot. You just have to sign, fill these documents, give them back to us. And then you would have to make the registration payment, which is basically used to secure the seat. It's a one-time payment. You don't have to pay that again later. So once we have those 4 things, your child's seat will be secured and you have a space in our school whenever your date of join is. And yeah, that's pretty much it. As simple as that. That's
okay, well, Sima, thanks for that that 4-step process. It seems much longer on a live stream, but the process moves very quickly.
Very
I'll tell
quickly.
you
Like,
that. Yeah.
if we have everything from the parent, if we have all the documents, all the school reports, you can get your child's seat secured within a day.
Definitely. And so the other question I have, because parents like to know, is what grades are we full in? What grades do we have availability in at this current time? Are we waitlisting? Things like that.
Sure, we are available in most grades. The only grades that we are full at are grade 3, 4, grade 7, and grade 9 for this year.
And another question as well, because we work closely together. I hear a lot of the parent questions. So what if you're overseas? Is it still a hard process? What do I need to give to you? Okay.
So in the past, we have used something called a conditional offer, which we basically can secure your child's seat until they get, we can secure the seat, and once they get into the country, we'll schedule the assessment. So that offer will be contingent on the kid passing the assessment. But when the pandemic started and we had to, we couldn't do in-person assessments at the school, we weren't allowed to have children here, we developed a new process for online assessments. So you are now able to have your child do the assessment online and secure the seat, and it's guaranteed. So once your child gets to the country, have the QID, he'll be able to start with us.
So what you're saying is that it's a peace of mind for families overseas to get everything done before they come.
It's so easy now. Yeah. Okay. With the online assessment tool, it's very easy. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Is there anything else that we missed that you may want to tell the parents before we hand it over?
I do want to talk about one more thing, which is our corporate discounts. So not a lot of our families might know that, but we offer siblings discount. So we have 25% of the annual tuition fee for the 4th sibling, and we have 50% for the 5th sibling. The other thing that we have is the ambassador program, which is basically if you refer a family to our school and they register with us, all they have to do is mention your name during the enrollment process, and you get a 4% discount off the annual tuition fee. The other discount that we have is we have a corporate discount for some certain companies, like Qatar Airways, Qatar Petroleum, Hamadneh Medical Corporations. Those are the big corporations that I can think of right now. But all of the discounts and all of the company names are actually pinned to our Facebook page. So go check that out, and you might find one of those companies that you work with. You might get a discount, and it's a 10% discount.
Yeah, definitely.
We also have the full tuition in advance. You get the 4% discount if you pay the full tuition, and then we have a refer a friend discount, and that's 4%, but that's cumulative. So if you refer a friend and they accept, and we make them an offer, if we make them an offer and if they're accepted, then you would get 4% off of your tuition. But if you refer 2 more friends and they both get offers and accept, you could have 12%, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's just like a thank you. That's all it really is. Thank you for referring. Thank you for talking about our school. Thank you for believing in our school. That's really what this is about. So, we have a lot of families who do take advantage of it, and we're very happy for the families and grateful for the families that continue to push about our school in the community. So that's great. So that's it, Ms. Sima? That's all?
Yeah, that's it. Very simple.
All right, cool. That sounds simple to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So what I'm going to do now is pass my own baton from Sima to myself, right? And to be able to continue to talk about the other side. Once you are now registered, what happens, right? So that's another question that, a lot of families would like to know, because that's that, tough time where, how do I orient into the school? You have all the questions in the world at that moment. So you have a couple of different resources when you actually make the transition to registration. Obviously, Ms. Sima and the admissions team are going to let you know what day you're going to come into the school, like what day you're going to start. And then they're also going to let you know what your color group is, because we do have a blended learning model at this time based on the 50% capacity and student body. And so you will either be in a red group or a blue group. And so she's going to let you know that at that time, which dictates when you come to school physically and when you're home learning at the same time. Okay. And so in terms of people and resources, you have several options. You have myself, and who I am is the parent relations executive. And I am going to be the individual that is going to walk you through like what to do, any type of questions, concerns, comments, things of that nature. I'll be the one that can help you as a customer service, person in the community, if you will. And so we do have the receptionists that are an extension of me and our team at the front of house. And then you have myself directly, which you can email me. You can give me a call. You can come to the school and pop by my office. I have a pretty comfortable office if you want to come by. So again, you can be able to reach out to me in many different ways. In terms of you being a part of the school and also learning what it's about, it depends on if you're in lower school or upper school. And so what do I mean by that? So what I mean by that is, if you are in lower school, for example, a lot of your first communication is going to come from your homeroom teacher. Okay, so the homeroom teacher is going to be able to email you directly information about who they are, the class, what they're going to do, classroom dojo application, seesaw, all the things that are going to properly orient you. The lower school homeroom teacher will be the focal point for you in terms of that interaction. And upper school is a little bit different because you have subject-based teachers. And so based on that, there's no homeroom teacher you can really tap into. And so Mr. Gregory and Mr. Wessel, they're our upper school principal and upper school assistant principal, respectively. They will be the ones that will properly orient your student if they come into the school. So they'll do a mini tour of the school facilities. They'll sit down with them and work on the schedule that they will have. And if they're AP type student or not, if we make sure that we won't, have them take 2 classes that they've taken already, we'll do all those different things and walk through with them that first day. And then we'll also pair them up with some students, in terms of, here are some other kids in your grade, right, that you can get to know so they won't feel alone, right? Because we all don't know everyone's experience. Some people feel alone when they come. Some people will just jump right in, so we do kind of pair the students and kind of have like a quasi ambassadors that can really work with them as well. So that's another key thing that I love on how we, structure that orientation process. The other thing that I would say is that our teachers have been here for quite some time. Obviously, we have new teachers that come in each and every year, but we have teachers who've been here for 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 years. And so they know the process. They know what's going on. They're super familiar with everything. And so I don't really think you're going to go too far without really knowing what's going on. All right. And in the event that, you don't know and you're completely lost, that's when you contact myself. You'll contact the receptionist team. We're here as your customer service wing to help reroute you or to help answer your question directly. So the email address on the screen is actually my email. So if you have any other questions about that parent experience or orientation experience for the student and for yourself, please feel free to email me there. Okay. And so the next thing I would talk about is student engagement. And so student engagement is very important, but it has also been limited, during this coronavirus world. So before we had, the coronavirus and the pandemic, we routinely had 30 to 35 different after school activities for the kids to get into. And we're nice, we like the kids to have a balance, so they can't come every day to the after school activity, but they will have 2 days a week, up to 2 days a week, that they can enjoy the after school activities free of cost, right? So it doesn't cost you anything extra. So free of cost. Even before then as well, we had other external camps and organizations come in that will offer Taekwondo, sports academy, some other different sports and activities that you can also pay for if you like. So now we are getting back into the swing of after school activities, but it's really more so online right now because we still can't do after school activities or sports at this moment. So you will see that we have some activities that are really student led, but are teacher supported and supervised as well. So one of the things that in our school is known for is that students lead a lot of initiatives, and that's how they learn. And they can always tap into the teachers for that supervision, for that checkup, and they'll go right back on to their initiative. And so I won't go over it right now, but there's a lot of things that make our school unique. And one of those things are that everything you see here, a lot of the students were behind that initiative, okay? And so we do have those online activities. Also, we look at peer support, maybe for, math or for science, those core subjects. So I know that the teachers are available for tutoring after school, by request, not saying that, they're there every day, but if you request that, they can work something out with you to get extra support for your child. And I know that we also have different peer-to-peer tutoring that goes on as well. We have some outstanding students in different subjects that are willing to, set up small study groups or work with the kids during lunchtime or an off period as well. So you do have the peer-to-peer student tutoring going on as well. And the other thing that you'll see is that the kids here, they're very friendly, and you go around and you feel like you could just drop right in the class. So I don't know if you saw our social media, but I was a fake student on Thursday. I was Jamal Bryant, a 12th grader, and I went into these classes and saw the teachers for the first time as a student. And really, I love what I saw because you saw a lot of students that were engaged, asking a lot of questions, very attentive, and then the teachers were very active. And it was a very much of a challenging environment. We weren't spoon feeding the kids. It wasn't a whole lesson that was all talked about from the teacher. It was a lot of challenging going on, but also scaffolding that we had their support. So I was very amazed to see this from a student perspective. And that's just a sample of what you will get for your student when they come here as well. Okay, so that's just a little bit of part of the student engagement. I'll move on to parent engagement. I'll keep this very brief. For parent engagement, we do have a parent association here. So make sure you email me if you want to be a part of that parent association once you become a GAAQ family, okay? The other part of it is that I also connect families based on what country they're from. So a lot of times I get, well, I'm Turkish, but I don't know any other Turkish families. I want to know how they translated, from a Turkish curriculum to here. Okay, let's connect you with another Turkish family that took that same route so you can hear it from them. So I do that as well, so you can get a first source interpretation, a first source information, not just from me, but someone who actually did it, and hear that success story. So just, don't be shy. Just let me know exactly what you want. And while we're on a tour together, let me know what you want, and I'll try to do the best as I can to connect you with those families or those resources. The last thing I would say before I hand the baton off to Mr. Mark is that there are several things that make our school unique. Number one, a lot of people will say this, and it really is true. The diversity in our school is amazing. And so we have about 78 nationalities that represent our student body, but we also have about 17, 18 different nationalities that represent our teacher or faculty body as well. So we are an American school, so the majority of our teachers are coming from North America, from Canada and the US. But we also have some highly qualified teachers that are outstanding that also come from other nations as well. So, you have to have a reflection of student body with your faculty. You can't have 78 nationalities with only 3 nationalities with your faculty. So we're truly a worldly school, an international community, all right? The second thing is what I talked about before, student initiative. Parent inclusion. That's what we do as a part of our ethos of our school. So when you talk about that eco flag that we proudly wave as the third school in Qatar to have the eco schools green flag, that came from students in a survey that they did about environmental sustainability in our school. We didn't push them to do that. They came to us and said, what can we do? Just yesterday, I had a student who came to me. I'm not faculty, but they said, Mr. Tyler, how can I help donate, goods for students in Palestine? This is ideals that they have and that we're actually helping them along the way. So they have that inside of them, and they have that ability to feel like they can come to us for ideals and initiatives that will help support. So that's something else. And obviously, I'm a parent relations person. So you have me as someone who can advocate on behalf of you to our senior leadership and to our greater community as well. And I think the third thing that makes us unique is that I know from an academic standpoint, we're the only, American school that offers the AP capstone diploma. So there's a high rigor, in our school, high academic rigor. We do have up to 19 advanced placement courses, which are very equivalent to some things that you'll see in IB curriculum, to IGCSE or A levels. They're very similar to that. We have 19 of those. We have the AP capstone. We are just a high rigor community. And so I think a lot of times people say, well, American is easier than other curriculums. I wouldn't say that. Because here we do challenge our kids to do as best as they can in their curriculum. And so I won't go too much. I could talk all day about what makes our school unique, but let someone else breathe and talk a little bit more from their perspective, okay? So I'm going to let, at this time, our head of school, our CEO, our GEMS Education country lead for Qatar, Mr. Mark Lentz, speak on his behalf about the educational approach and the blending learning model of our school.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Sima. Justin asked me to mention a couple of talking points, the American curriculum in general, and then some maybe possible differences in lower school approach to education versus upper school approach for prospective parents that are in either division or both. You might have a kid in pre-K or KG1 or in 7th or 8th grade. So we want to make sure you know what education looks like in all of those areas. And then to talk about our blended learning model for the imminent future, although we really hope that at some point we're not doing blended learning. But obviously we have to follow MOE directives on that. So just a first thought about American curriculum in general. Justin touched on it. There's a myth out there sometimes that I've seen the myth maybe misrepresented one of both ways. Like I've heard it said, oh man, the American curriculum, it's way more independent and it's so much harder for the kids. I've also seen it like, oh, the American curriculum, it's way more flexible and therefore it's just way easier for the kids. I think the idea that there's flexibility and independence is absolutely true. That's sort of the core of the American curriculum. I don't know that it necessarily makes it any easier or any harder. I think it's different. One of the strengths of a British curriculum, if that's something you were looking at, and as Mr. Tyler said, I am the country lead, so I also oversee our sister school, which is a British curriculum school and also an excellent school. But one of the strengths of a British curriculum school is they have a very stable, unified national curriculum. There is a British curriculum, period. You will get that in every British school across England, and you will get that in every British international school around the world. It is very rigid. Every teacher, you go into a British 3rd grade or year 3 class, they know exactly what they're going to teach because it's what the British school in Bombay and the British school in Shanghai and the British school in downtown London are all going to teach. American education didn't develop that way. America was the first country in the world to mandate free public education in the late 1800s. Point of pride as a fellow American. And it grew. I mean, it's been around for so long that each state grew its own. It was mandated by the federal government to the state governments. So each state created its own system of education. So even up until maybe 10 years ago, you have 50 states, you had 50 different systems of education. If you went to get your education in Florida, it was very different than California or Pennsylvania. And therefore, as American international schools have grown, we tended to align ourselves. Hey, I'm going to pick New York. That's the curriculum I'll use. I'll use New York curriculum. Some international schools pick and choose. I love New York's math curriculum. I don't really like their English curriculum. I'll use California's English curriculum. That is changing to some extent. America has brought in a more unified curriculum called Common Core Standards. We do follow the Common Core Standards. That is currently in math and English. They're working on science. So for science and social studies, we use New York State curriculum. I think it's one of the strongest out there. But it's inherent in that American system that there is more independent exploration of the material. And I think for some kids, that's a little more challenging. If you're the kid who wants to sit in the back of the classroom and be told the information, and you have to memorize that information and regurgitate that information onto a piece of paper, the American system is going to be harder for you. If you're a kid who's maybe likes to move around a little bit and likes to think outside the box and express their own opinions, then the American system's maybe going to be more appealing for you. And you know, I'm obviously biased. I'm an American and I'm in charge of an American school. But if I were to think about the articles I've read about the skills that students need to be successful in this upcoming century, I think that sort of independence in learning is a key skill that they need, that they may lack in some of those other curriculums. There's an article I read a few years ago that really made me think about this, that the jobs, when I grew up, possibly if you're a parent, when you grew up, I don't know if many of you maybe didn't ride your dinosaur to school like I did. But when I grew up, I remember looking at my career choices, I was literally given a book. Here's the book. This has every job you could possibly do in the book. Flip through it and think about what you want to do when you apply to a college. There is no book of every job available on the planet anymore. There's too many jobs. And then you add to that statistically speaking, 75% of the jobs, my graduating students, my KG kids, 75% of the jobs they'll do when they graduate currently don't exist. The world is changing at that rapid a pace. So I think it's an archaic system to say this is what you need to become a doctor, this is what you need to become a lawyer, because my kids in early childhood and in early elementary, they're going to have so many jobs available to them. They're going to need the ability to critically think. They're going to need the ability to find information, then explore that information, decipher what's true and what isn't, and then be able to produce some sort of useful information. And that's really what our educational model's about here. If I get into specific divisions, our early childhood model is really based on play-based education. It's a much more interactive model. We do still have them coming in uniforms, and there are still times when they're sitting at their little desks and writing at their little desks. It's adorable. I love going to KG. But there's also a lot more movement and exploration of things, lots of centers that kids get to choose from. And that really seems to be the way forward with early childhood education. By the time a kid gets to first grade, I think of lower elementary, we're really then focusing on skill acquisition. We're not so much we're really teaching a child to read. We're teaching a child to recognize numbers and basic mathematic principles. Somewhere around grade 3, there's a switch. We're not really teaching a child to read. They're now reading to learn. By about grade 3, they know how to read. Now they're reading content to gain information. And that's really what our upper elementary is about, helping them through that transition where we're not learning the basic skills that they need now. They've got those skills. Now we're teaching them to start to dive into content in preparation for upper school. Middle school, it's a big switch from 5 to 6. It is in probably every school in the world. We hold their hands as much as we can, but They definitely feel a little bit like they've been kicked into the deep end of the pool sometimes. We've got lots of support systems for them, but that's really when they start to need to be able to take independence in their education. And middle school is really about preparing them for that, because by the time they hit 9th grade, we just had an upper school meeting last night, and it's one of the things the parents were asking the upper school counselor, hey, when should we start thinking about college, and when should my kid really start to prepare for college? And we said, it's happening now. Your kid's in 9th grade. We're doing that right now, because every grade they get in high school is going to end up on their college transcript. Colleges don't look at 6th, 7th, and 8th. We're still using that to, obviously you want your child to have good grades. We want your child to have good grades, but colleges aren't looking at them. By the time they hit grade 9, everything in 9, 10, 11, and 12, that becomes their college transcript. That's what they're going to apply to colleges with. So we want our kids to be really well prepared for that by the time they get to upper school. Justin, does that sort of get to the point of what you were asking about explaining our educational approach before I start talking about blended learning?
I think you did a fantastic job of explaining the educational approach. So I think we can get into more about the blended learning and how the numbers work in terms of why we are going every other day versus not why we're going 5 days a week. So,
yep, absolutely. That's a question we get asked all the time. It's really confusing, I think, for parents, especially prospective parents, looking at what's going on all throughout the country. Why are some schools doing what they're doing and others not? 3 or 4 years ago, you wouldn't have had the variance, if you will, in the way schools are approaching education. Obviously, pre-COVID, everybody had 100% of their kids on campus every day. There were still differences in English versus American, but there's a lot of things going on right now. You will hear that some schools have 100% of their students on campus. I get asked that a lot. How come GEMS isn't doing that? Across the hall they are, across the road they are. The GEMS British school is bringing all of their kids on campus. Why aren't we then? And it really comes down to the MOE's regulations. They said schools can have up to 50% of their full capacity on campus at any given day, so long as they maintain socially distancing and you have no more than 15 students in a room. So what that means is a school like my British school that I oversee, they have 1,600 students is their maximum, and they have less than 800 kids enrolled. So 50% of 1,600 is 800, so they can bring all their kids on campus. We have 1,600 maximum at our school, but we have 1,100 kids. 50% of 1,600 is not 1,100, unfortunately. But that does allow us to bring our pre-K and KG1 kids in every day. We're constantly looking at ways to get our other kids in more often. And I can say this, that I'm part of a Doha heads group. I interact with lots of Doha heads, ASD, ACS, all the British school clusters, constantly interacting, Vision, NES, you name a school where we talk all the time. And I was in some meetings at the end of last year and again this year where we're literally scratching our heads and sharing notes and trying to learn from one another. And we sort of come to the conclusion that there is no perfect model to replicate what used to happen. We're all doing our best. The schools that were on 100%, much like our neighbor school, their concern is child safety. So if I bring all of my kids on campus, but I can't have more than 15 in a room, I have to split those kids into 2 rooms. I guarantee you there's no school in the country right now that doubled their number of teaching staff when they did that. So how do I have all of the kids that used to be in one class split into 2 classes with 1 teacher and safely supervise them? And the answer is it's almost impossible to do so. And if you're not safely supervising them, then you're out of MOE regulations. So they're doing some crazy stuff to make that happen. One model I've seen is where a teacher sits in the hallway with doors propped open so that they can see into each of the classrooms across from them. And what the teacher does is he puts his teacher desk in the middle of the hallway. He puts his screen up like our screen, and then all of the kids in class have to sit in their desks, but they're not allowed to talk to each other or to the teacher. They sit on their screens, at which point the only advantage that model has over when we were fully online and kids were at home is they're not bothering mommy and daddy and driving you guys nuts. But for all intents and purposes, they're doing fully online learning, but they're doing fully online learning with the kids in campus. That to me is I can't even fathom what that would look like. And the schools I've talked to are, again, struggling. How do we make that work? And then I've seen schools that do what now, that's one model that's fairly common. The schools that have to do blended learning, which is what we're doing, 50% in one day and 50% in the next. The other model that is most common is we've sort of colloquially started to call room and Zoom. That means I've got my kids here today, my A group or my B group, if you will, my 1 group or 2 group. We call them, we're an American school, we call them our red group and blue group. So red groups in, blue groups at home. Now what room and Zoom looks like is I'm gonna teach red, but we want blue to be able to get access to that information, so they're gonna participate online. There's 2 versions of that I've seen. One is a much more passive thing for blue. I'm teaching red, I put a computer up somewhere with a camera. You know, you can barely see across my room right now, right? So you're gonna get a little computer. As I get my computer really far away from me, you can't really hear what's happening. And they're trying desperately to see what's going on in the classroom as the teacher is paying attention to the red group. I can tell you that doesn't work. Blended learning isn't new. I was the first international student in my doctoral program. Everybody else in my doctoral program was there in class with the teacher, and I was the guy on the computer. And they did even better than what we're doing. The guy on the computer, I had a buddy, and he'd set his computer up, and every once in a while look in the computer and be like, Mark, do you understand what's going on? And my answer was always, no, I can't hear anything. I can't see what's happening. And I would sit through 3-hour lectures just pulling my hair out. It's very short now. So like that model just didn't work. The other room and Zoom, we tried. We tried it when we first started. The idea being, I'm gonna have the teacher teaching my kids at home on the computer while trying to teach the kids in class. But the reason that doesn't work is I can't focus on 2 things at once. And as minute I'm talking to the class like this, hey everybody, blah, 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 you're not getting anything when I'm doing that. And then if I'm talking to you, I'm not looking at them. They're over there. So you end up with the same problem as the teacher sitting in the middle of the hallway. I'm gonna talk to everybody in my class like this through my computer screen. So the guys at home are getting that, but the guys in school are on their computer. And multiple parents and kids would ask, based on COVID safety, does my kid actually have to come to school? If he's just gonna sit in class on his computer, couldn't he just stay at home in his pajamas? It saves me driving him back and forth to school. That doesn't make any sense. So we don't do that. We did a lot of research over last summer, and all the literature out there says that, again, going back to that American model, students are capable of learning independently. There's a woman named Allison King back in 1993 wrote an article called The Sage and the Stage versus the Guide and the Side. And the concepts were about active versus passive learning. And they termed the Sage and the Stage model that I had when I was a kid, the lecture model, they called that passive learning. So I, the teacher, am the oracle of all knowledge. I will stand at the front of the stage and shoot information at these empty vessels that just sit there and absorb the information. Study upon study upon study has shown that's great for rote learning. I can throw a bunch of information at you. If the next day I tell you to write it down, you can do it. But 3 months later, you're not going to remember any of that. In order for information to be retained in the brain, you have to actively interact with it. And so King's idea was to turn the teacher into a guide, not an oracle. My job isn't to teach you. My job is to facilitate a learning opportunity for you. My job is to understand, based on what grade you're in, hey, you finished 3rd, so you should know these concepts. You're going into 4th. Now's the point where we really should stop working on an addition, subtraction. You should already know your fractions. We're going to start working on multiplication and division of fractions. That's kind of where you're at. those are the learning opportunities I'm going to give to you. And then I'm going to coach you through that. And I'm going to help you figure out how to learn that. But the kids are able to learn that on their own. I promise you they can. There's a body upon body of literature out there that says that. So our goal is to maximize our classroom time. We want as much face-to-face time. When your kid's on campus, they are not going to be on their computers. They are going to be interacting with their teacher and interacting with their peers and getting lots of face-to-face live instruction. The day they're not here, that teacher is going to give them lots of independent things that they're able to practice on at home, so they can come back the next day and say, hey, Mr. Tyler, I think I understood this, this, and this, but man, I'm lost on this one. Can you help me out with that? And then we can focus on that live in class and give them something else to take home the next day. We're proud of our model. We've seen success in our model. We know that we get asked questions because I don't think there's many schools in Qatar doing what we're doing. But I can tell you when I have this, if it sounds like a bit of a pedestal or a rant, forgive me, I've been asked this a lot over the last year. But I know there's a lot of heads of schools taking notes, those meetings that we've been in, saying, you're doing what? Explain that to me again, because they're concerned about their models as well. So hopefully that answers your questions about blended learning and about American education. I'm sorry if I talked too long, Mr. Tyler, and I thank all of you for being patient if you're still listening.
Mark, Mr. Mark, I really forgot that I was a host. I was just sitting there soaking in like I had 3 kids or something like that, you know, like I was just lost. I was like, oh my goodness, this is so much good information.
You're
I
too
literally
kind.
forgot. I'll be honest with you. I literally
Too
forgot.
kind, my friend.
And you know, I think it's very important, and I really appreciate how you described everything, because soon, you know, inshallah, you will be Dr. Lentz, and you know, your research is showing, right? I feel very confident in what you're doing. I think a lot of parents, they feel confident too in what we're doing. I think sometimes it's just educating why we do what we do, because it's not good to follow if you don't know what you're doing, but it's good to lead if you have confidence, and this research backs that up. That is good to do this type of model. So I really appreciate you, you know, really going forth and being a pioneer. And I think other people are catching on. We're getting some newspaper clippings about what we're doing in our blended model as well. And so that's just, you know, that's respect. You know, I really think that we're okay. And I really appreciate you going through all of that for us today. All right. So just for some housekeeping measures, right? We're almost going to get into the questions from the audience. So if you haven't given us your questions now, this is the time now to put your questions in the Facebook comments. Also time to put your questions into the YouTube chat, so we can put those questions on the screen and answer them as best as we can. All right. Second thing, I'm going to reiterate that we have different discount models here as well. So first thing is the tuition discount for the 4th child, which will be 25% for the youngest of your bunch, right? And then for the 5th child, it will be 50% for the youngest of your bunch. So the tuition discount for that. Second thing, we talked about our refer a friend program, or our thank you program, right? Because families are referring other families, and if you successfully pass the assessment and you secure a seat in our school, you will be entitled to a 4% discount as long as you place the name of that family in the admissions documents. So this is not a limit. This is not a ceiling. If you have 2 students who follow the same path, it's 8%. 4 students, it goes to 16%. So you do the math, right? You know, I didn't finish math too strongly, you know, but you could do the math on that. You'll see exactly what that adds up to be for your children, okay? The third thing is the corporate agreements. We are actively working with different corporations to come up with these tuition agreements. And so if you know anyone from your company that wants to talk to me about the tuition agreements and maybe forge a deal that works out for both of us, now you can email me here, okay? Because we're working with different companies all throughout the year, and we're establishing more and more agreements each single year for corporate agreements to help out our families, okay? The other part is that you can go to our Facebook page, and you'll see pinned to the top all the companies thus far that we have corporate agreements with that will offer you 10% of tuition discount for your child, okay? So just a little bit of housekeeping, a little bit of remembering these things when you think about GEMS American Academy. So I think without further ado, let's go to the questions and let's see what we have there on terms of the questions, and let's see how we can answer them. Okay. So I'll take this off the screen. Let's go to the comments. So there's not many questions. I think we kind of covered some things, but let's look at this one here. Do you provide school transportation? I'll take that one. We actually do provide school transportation. So a couple things I want you to know about that transportation. Number one, we have transportation all throughout Greater Doha and also Wakra and Abu Qair as well. So a lot of our families actually come from Lusail, the Pearl, West Bay, Oneza, places that you would think would be a little bit further away from our Wakra. But we have families coming all the way from there using our transport service, okay? Second thing to note is that our buses have CCTV on each one. They have a bus driver and a female bus guardian on each of those buses. Third thing is they both, well, not both, but the female bus guardian has a phone, a cell phone. So if any type of changes that need to be made or any last minute adjustments, you can contact directly the bus guardian, okay? The fourth thing I will say is that I'm very proud that we haven't had any accidents in our 7 years of existence on the bus, and I will put a hand on my heart for that one because we want to make sure that continues to be the thing as well. So alhamdulillah that we haven't had any accidents like that, all right? So it's a very smooth system, and we have bus service, and you can find more information on our website on the cost of the bus service, but we do have that in short. We do have school transportation.
One more thing about transportation is that if it was in Doha, we do bus stops to minimize the time that the students spend on the bus. Mm-hmm. For Wakra, we do door to door because our school is in Wakra.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. This is why I have you on this live stream. I can't get everything, you know.
And also, while we're on the bus, it's a slightly unrelated statement, but our reputation for both our schools, the GEMS reputation has really grown. If you don't know, GEMS is the largest independent education network in the world. And it's very famous in UAE, but our reputation is really growing here. And when I'm out and about and I say, I'm in charge of GEMS education, people will say, oh, wow, yeah, I heard it's a great school, but you're just so far away. And I get that all the time, and I get the misnomer. I've been here almost 5 years now, and when I got here, I lived in West Bay, and it took me 45 minutes to get here. If you lived in the Pearl, it took over an hour. But with all the roads that have opened up, and I've moved. I now live in Al Wab, but this morning we were in a hurry, and we were running a little late. We had a little yelling at my children from my wife. We were running late, but I moved a little faster. I was really trying to pay attention, but I made it in 21 minutes from Al Wab. And when people say, "Hey, you're far," and the last time, the fastest I've made it from West Bay is 25 minutes. But when people say you're far away, if you live in West Bay and you're trying to get to Al Wab at one of the schools out there, I dare you to try and get there in 21 minutes. There's no way you're going to go through Doha anywhere in rush hour traffic in 21 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it may seem like we're far away, but because we have highway access, we're probably closer to you than many of the schools that are actually in Doha. And then if you build in the new tram.
Yeah. Yep.
20 minutes from West Bay, blam, you're in Wakra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. With the new highway, I was able to get to Lusail once within 35 minutes, which was like a world record.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, and there's absolutely no traffic. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely changed throughout the years.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you all saying that because it has changed. Every year the roads get better.
Yeah.
And every year Al Wakra seems to open up to Doha in a different way. Yeah. So it's really important. So if you ever want to come down and find out, about all of our bus stops, come book a tour with me. We have a bus coordinator, Mr. Tadaka. He'll go through everything. This guy's an oracle of Doha, right? All the different changes and things over the years. He knows the routes, okay? So we would love for you to talk about that. And so we have one more question. Mark, you might have to answer this one.
Yep.
How can we know which AP exam our children should pass in grade 9, especially for a grade 9 student?
Okay, it's a great question. So AP, as Mr. Tyler said, AP is the American version of IB. It actually came out before IB. AP was started in the United States in 1958 in order to get students advanced placement credits. AP stands for advanced placement and credits in college. So they're actually taking college level courses in high school. And then 4 years later in Geneva, the International Baccalaureate program came out for European schools to simulate the same thing. They're at one point were very different. Now, much like PCs and Macs, they're different in terms of content and approach, but at the end of the day, the goal is the same, and they're both. I've taught in both and administered both. They're both great programs. Why did we choose AP? And the answer is simple. We pride ourselves on being one of the few truly American schools in the country. AP's the American version. That just made sense. But in terms of which you should take, that's the thing I like. I think it's AP strength over IB. AP gives you much more flexibility in terms of what you can and should take. It allows a kid to really, I'm not good at math, then don't take AP math. Or what are you good at? I'm good at English and art, then take those. I'm horrible in science, but I'm great in math, then take AP calculus. It really allows your kid to flex into their areas of strength. For a child who feels they're strong in every area, we're the only school in Qatar right now that offers something called the AP Capstone Diploma, which is AP's sort of answer to IB's full diploma. It's fairly new, but we're really proud. We had our first AP diploma graduates last year. And what that means is you have to take a course called research and another course called seminar. They're amazing courses to prepare our kids for college because they're really focused on independent research. I talked to one of our boys the other day, came back to visit and say hi to Mr. Lentz. And it was one of our AP students. And I asked, I was like, so college is easy now, right? And he's like, oh yeah, Mr. Lentz, I got this. We're good. But those courses really help. Typically AP is really only for 11th and 12th grade. On occasion, they'll offer it in 9th. And then recently AP came out with a new course, AP Human Geography, which it's okay to take it pretty much in any grade. So we did have some 9th graders take it last year. I'm not going to lie to you. They were like deer in the headlights. It was a lot. But yeah, it is possible to take that one AP in 9th grade. But there's absolutely no requirements to take it in 9th grade. But we do have the expectation that all of our students will take some AP courses once they hit grades 11 and 12. We don't require it at this point, but we do really, our verbiage when we're talking to kids in 9th and 10th grade is let's start thinking about your areas you're strong at and which AP courses you're going to want to take, because it looks really good on a college resume and it saves mommy and daddy money if they get college credit.
Right. Definitely. Couldn't say any better than that as well. And we are at the last comment. So we are at the end of the live stream. I want to thank our panelists today for joining us. I can't talk right now. I need some water. Joining us today. And also for everyone in YouTube land and Facebook as well for, dropping by, seeing what we have to offer. What I would just ask, we don't need you to pay us for what we did, but just like the video, share it with families that may be interested. That would be something that I would just love and appreciate if you could do that on behalf of our school and for taking out the time today to sit down and talk with you. All right. Any other things you want to say, Mr. Mark or Ms. Sima, before we go today?
If you haven't been here, come see us.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder than words. We're pretty confident in what we're saying to you right now, but if you're not 100%, if this video hasn't sold you on it 100%, come take a look. Like I said, we're not that far away.
Indeed. And I will give you a tour. I'm a nice guy. I talk a little bit, but I got a lot of information. We can talk. I got jokes. I've been traveled the world. Let's talk. Let's see the school for what it is, right? And so I think you will like it a little bit more than you thought when you came in the building. All right.
Yeah.
So to that end, it's Thursday. Let's enjoy our rest of our Thursday. Let's work hard for a couple hours before our employers, but let's really go home and see our families and enjoy the rest of the weekend, everyone. All right. I salute you. Thank you for
Thanks.
coming by. Thank you, panelists. Have a
Thanks
good
for watching, guys.
Thursday and have a better weekend as well. Talk to you soon.